Good afternoon. Welcome back to the B&H Virtual Event Space. Rod and I were laughing over here. We were having too good a time before we went live today. I'm like, I can't even get a straight face before clicking to broadcast. So, welcome. The smiles because Rod's back. That's why. And I don't have to do retouching for once. We get to watch Rod do it. Today, we are learning retouching. We're learning it live. We're going to get to see Rod do what he does in Photoshop. So if you do have any questions, we're going to be taking them on the fly. We're going to be basically sitting on your shoulder, Rod. So I hope you don't mind. We're going to be looking over, see what you have for us. I saw a little snippet of some frequency separation, and we're going to be doing some color balancing, right? A little bit of
Yeah,
everything.
good. Yep, got a couple tips and tricks on things that that I come across, problems for me that I've learned how to deal with.
Awesome. And it's a lot of everyday stuff. So don't worry if you are a beginner. This is going to be easy to digest. It's going to be stuff that most photographers use on pretty much an everyday basis, or for the
Yeah,
more common things. We're not diving really deep here. So sit down,
yeah,
relax. If you got Photoshop, got your computer open, pull up a picture. Maybe you want to try to follow along and take some inspiration from some of your images as we watch Rod. But Rod, I'm going to kick it over to you, man. Good to have you back. I love having you
good to
on.
have you. Good to
And
be here, Derek. Thanks for having me back.
awesome. Hey,
So yeah,
anytime,
so
man. Yeah, get started.
cool. So yeah, first of all, I'm not a Photoshop expert. I have an old version of Photoshop. I use CS5. Um, so I don't even have a current version of Photoshop. I have what I have, and it works for me. And as far as my Photoshop skills, I know what to do, how to do what I need to do, and that's about it, really. Um, so I think I'm just going to go. First of all, I'm just going to show some before and afters. Give you my little presentation first. So I'll tell you a little bit about me. My name's Rod Goodman. I am originally from Los Angeles. I've been in New York since 2005. I have a studio in Chelsea. I do headshots, portraits, branding images, mainly for corporate clients. Got my start as doing actors and kind of transitioned into the corporate. And that's my saying, own your space. I like my clients to feel kind of empowered in front of the camera, and kind of let them understand the process, and that seems to help them let their guard down. So getting right into it, this is real world retouching on the face. Real world is like, I'm not a fashion shooter. I don't do stuff like that. I got to make people look kind of like the way they do. So no big changes on people, just evening out and stuff like that. And I'm going to show you right now. What a coincidence. So here's some before and afters. I'm going to go through this quickly because I have a lot to do. So we're just going to go real quick. Basically, a lot of what I do is dodging and burning. That's basically what it comes down to. Dodging and burning in different areas of the picture, on layer masks. I do a lot of layer masks and contouring with frequency separation. A lot of people think of frequency separation as that real glossy kind of rubber plastic skin, and you can do that, but you can also, basically what frequency separation is doing is you're separating the tone from the texture, and you're putting them on two different layers, and it's really empowering, and I'm going to show you what it does. So I'm just going to rip through these really quickly. Even people who are really pretty need a little retouching. And this is about as structural as I get. This guy, his eye, as you can see, droops a little bit. So what I did is I opened it up just a little bit. See that? Just a teeny bit. And in doing that, I took off the tension muscle that you can see on the side of his head and stuff like that, just to make it a little more natural. Open it up a little bit. It just, makes it look more like what you see when you look at the person in real life. Because in real life, we don't notice these flaws in ourselves as much as we do in pictures. Then here you'll see I kind of smoothed out the hot spots. A lot of times in what I do, I go on location or something and I'm shooting a company, and I don't have the luxury of having a makeup artist there, you know, so I have to kind of shoot what I get. And that means hot spots. People have hot spots and bad makeup and all that kind of stuff. And I got to kind of deal with that. Little cleanup around the eyes and what have you. Mostly you'll see it's contouring around the chin, around the cheeks. You know, people have bags under the eyes. You don't want to take bags away because you look like an alien. So, but if you, the nature of digital photography today is it's HD, it's high def. So what's high def? It's high def. So you see stuff really exaggerated, you know? So again, when you're looking at this person in real life and she's smiling, you're not looking at the bags. You don't see them as much as you do in the picture. So I take it down a little bit. You still want to see the bags, but you don't want them to overpower the picture. Same with this young lady here. You know, it's like contouring. I didn't really do much, just really contouring around her facial structure. Redness under the neck, got to get rid of that. Fixed his shirt a little bit. You know, some people are ruddy. You know, he's a ruddy skinned guy, but he does have that hot spot, and I got to deal with it. So I just kind of smoothed it out a little bit and blended it, and sharpened up his features because he has really nice features. So I sharpened him up a little bit. Corporate images, as opposed to actors, I can whiten their teeth. So I whitened her teeth and made her skin pop again, just kind of contouring her skin and her features. And then again, just kind of cleaning stuff up, making the shape of his face a little more sharp. See, you can see. Didn't do much, but it does enough. Now this, if you guys want to take a screenshot of this, this is frequency separation. This is the formula for how to do frequency separation on a 16-bit image, not on an 8-bit, only on a 16. The 8 is a different, the setting is a little bit different. When you, the blending mode is different, and the offset, I believe, or the scale is different, I believe. I'm going to put this back up again, but that's it. So now what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to start to retouch, and I'm going to start by showing you basically an image from start to finish. I'm just going to close. Let me just close Keynote so it doesn't confuse me. There we go.
Rod, as you get started, what's your philosophy on removing blemishes? You know, you have some stuff like acne that is temporary, and then you have
Yep.
stuff such as moles. And I'm guessing you've probably had requests for people who are like, well, can you lighten a mole or a birthmark or take something out? What's your philosophy on handling all that stuff?
It's actually the reverse. Most of the time people will say, hey, can you put my mole back? You took it off. So yeah, I mean, that comes with kind of experience and looking at people's skin and trying to decide what's there permanently. Like you said, Derek, you know, permanent versus temporary, you know, and you can kind of look at something and kind of go, yeah, you know what, that's a blemish, you know, just the way the color of it and the look of it. It's just something you kind of learn. But yes, many times, yeah, it's like, you know, someone will say, hey, you took my mole off. Can you put that back on? So that's usually what happens. So in the retouching, I like to start my editing process actually in the Photoshop Adobe Raw module. The same module is in Photoshop as is in Lightroom. They're just functionality differences. The thing I like about using the Raw module in Photoshop is it doesn't have those pins as much. It only has it in a certain area. So I find it easier just to work on an image. And a lot of times I'm not doing batching, so I don't need the Lightroom that capability. So I'm just doing one image. So the first thing I do is I open it up and I have my setting where the red, as you see at the top, is clipping. So I know right away, like I want to get rid of that clipping. So the first thing I would do is try the recovery, and the recovery actually works. So that's all I need to do. And you just want to recover it just until it starts to show. You don't want to do too much, right? There, right? So then the next thing I would do is I think her chin needs to be lightened just a hair. So I'm going to go over here to this brush up here, adjustment brush. I'm going to take an exposure. Maybe let's start it at 20%. And I'm just going to go like this. Now I can see I'm going to get it off of the lip. Okay, there we go. And as you can see, and what I'm doing here is these adjustments I'm making in the Photoshop module, what's good about it is it's non-destructive. So I'm working on the image in its raw state. So you get a lot more latitude. You can really you can really do a lot in here as opposed to in Photoshop. Also too, I think she needs a little contrast underneath there too. That's good. Okay. So now I'm going to go back to the main screen and I'm just going to add, I try to do, global editing on the image in the raw module. I'm going to add some contrast overall globally. And that's about it. And now I'm going to open it up and I'm going to start editing it. And the first thing I do is I want to change the size to the size I'm going to use, which is usually 7 by 10.5. And now I'm going to show you how to, now I have a preset for frequency separation, but I'm going to do it step by step just so you can see what happens. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to duplicate the layer twice. So you go, no, the shortcuts I give are Apple only. I don't know PC, so sorry guys. Apple J twice, Apple J, Apple J. And the next step is you want to turn off layer 1 copy. You want to shut that off, right? Then you want to activate layer 1, okay? Then you want to go over to filter and you want to go to blur and go to Gaussian blur. And I go to the eye because that's what I really care about. You pick a blur level to just where it starts to blur the eye, okay? And you pick that, okay? Then what you do is you turn on all the layers, right? Now you go to the copy and you change it to linear light. I have a preset for this. I don't know. And then with layer 1 copy, right, activated, you go to apply image. Then with the apply image, this seems real complicated, but it's not, everybody. Once you do it a few times, it's really easy. Okay, then you go to apply image, and then you choose the layer. You choose layer 1. Okay. Then you choose blending mode of add. Okay. And then you invert. Okay. The opacity is at 100, scales it at 2, offsets at 0. This is correct. And then you push OK. Now, if you did this correctly, I'll zoom in and you'll see that she is not blurred. See, there's no effect. I'm toggling back and forth. And you can see it did nothing, right? So that means you did it right, right? So now, just for the sake of, you'll see why. Now I'm going to get rid of this. So that's frequency separation. So from there, you start to edit the image. And I'm going to show you let me just make, you'll see. I'm going to get rid of that. And now I'm going to use my preset because it's labeled and you'll be able to understand better. Okay, so as you can see on the right, you can see it's the low and high, right? So I'm going to do my preset. I got rid of that. And I'm going to do my preset. I'm going to go to her eye. I already know I wanted it 1.5. Okay, now I have broken the image up into 2 levels, basically, the low and the high. The low is the tone and the high is the texture. And I'll show you what I mean. So what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to get rid of these marks on her head. So I'm going to take the healing brush and, oh, can I move this? Yes, I can. Cool. I'm going to take the healing brush and I'm going to go to lighten for the blend mode. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to pick a brush big enough that covers the spot. So I'm going to pick a light spot to sample, and I have my, it's at current and below, and you can see the source is sampled, okay? And I'm on lighten, and I pick a light part and go to a dark part. And now I'm just going to start cruising through this, and this is how I do it. And we're going to go fast because we have a lot to cover. And what's happening is, because it's broken up into levels, you can see that I'm lightening the marks, but it's not affecting the texture of her skin at all. Zero. Like if you use this as the healing brush in a normal photo without breaking it up into frequency separation, you're going to be affecting the texture of her skin, and it's going to be really difficult to match it. So now I'm just going to go through this and just rip through this really fast. And it's very effective. And also what I can do is I can kind of blend the edges of the hot spot, as you can see. And I'm doing this real fast. And then I'm just going to move. And also you can see, look, it doesn't affect the hair because the hair is texture. And then I'm going to go down. And this is kind of what you're talking about, Derek, like kind of figuring out what, like I need to like go, what do I think is usually there? And I have a feeling that those marks might be there all the time, but she'd probably be really happy if I got rid of them, which she was. So I'm just going to get rid of what I think I should get rid of. You can see that she must have been to the club the night before because she has glitter lipstick.
Now, what about like acne scarring? There's a lot of people who have scars from acne, which I guess would separate from like,
yep.
It's one thing if somebody has like a scar from a cut on their forehead and some people like that as character, but what about acne scarring?
So what I would do for an acne scar is I'd go above the high layer, the high level. I won't do that. Well, I'll do that just to show you, but I do this methodically normally. So let's say I want to get rid of the here, let's go with that. There. Let's say I want to get rid of these, right? So now I would be on above the high layer, right? Because that's the texture layer. Then I would take my healing brush and go to normal. And now I'm on the texture brush. So I want to pick a texture that's similar. So she's got the little, the skin. So, and that's if she has acne scars. And now I'm just covering it up. And because of this frequency separation, again, it's not affecting the tonality. It's just affecting the texture. And you have to do this. You can see I didn't do it great. You got to be careful. You got to do it be mindful. But that's basically what I would do to get rid of acne scars. But those are, I would also more prefer to get rid of them this way because it's more realistic. Because this is really her skin. I'm not really doing anything crazy, but look how much that did just in that short amount of time. Now, the next thing I'm going to do in moving along with this photo is I'm going to take care of the dark pigmentation under her eyes, just a little bit, not a lot. So I'm going to pick a brush and I'm going to go about 10% opacity. Make sure the hardness is all the way down. And we're going to pick a color just above and just kind of brush it on there real lightly. Same with here. Okay. And then, so that's pretty strong. That's a pretty strong hand. Actually, I'm going to just lighten that up just a little bit. Same with here. You'll see. And then, so that's pretty heavy-handed. But if you double click right here on outside of, not in the picture, not in the, well, actually you can do it there. Okay. So you double click on your layer and it brings up this menu. And this is the blend if menu. Now, I can't tell you why this works, but same with frequency separation. I can't tell you why it works, but it works. So what happens is I'm going to split. So keep an eye on her eyes. So what I can do is we can use this to blend it, right? But see what that gets real funky, right? So what we can do is if you push the Option key down, you can split these sliders and it makes it the transition much better. And usually I like to go pretty far. And what it does is it just blends. Anything darker gets taken away, anything lighter gets, it's that kind of a thing. So I'm not too articulate with it, but I know how it works or how to use it. And then so from there, you can see to there made a big difference, just that. So that looks pretty good. And if I feel it's a little too heavy handed, I'll take the opacity down to like 70% or 75. So, okay. So now see these little things are making a big difference to the picture a little bit at a time. And I just look around the picture, see if there's anything else I need to get. Now we're going to go to the texture layer. So we're going to go put our cursor and highlight the high and then put a layer above that. Now I'm working on the texture layer of the image. So shortcut J brings up the healing brush. Okay. And we want to go to normal. You could do replace too, but replace, I like normal because it lets, the computer, the program kind of uses its brain to blend. And then you just start getting rid of what you don't want. And again, because you frequency separated it, a lot of times you'll notice when you try to do this with an unfrequency separate, on a normal image, it messes up the color. You'll notice that it kind of screws up the color when you try to do this. It doesn't do that in this mode. Now, I would also get rid of all these little things under her lips, but that's going to take too long. But you can see that it does move fairly quickly. But I'm not going to do that because that's going to take too long. And I want to get rid of this little fuzzy hair right there. So the easiest thing to do really is look at my background is white. So I'm going to take on the texture layer, on the top layer, I'm going to get a new layer and take the brush. And if you shortcut D, keyboard D will make it black and white, your palette. And then I don't want white, but actually, never mind. Then you sample there and I'm just going to paint it right in there. And even though it's 10%, you just go a little bit at a time. And that's it. Okay. That's that for that. And now, so now what I've done is I have done my retouch. Oh, you know what? I want to do one more thing. Sorry. Oh, shoot. I should have. Shoot. That's okay. This is good to show. I also just want to kind of tame this hot spot. So I'm going to get a new layer on the tone layer, on the low layer. I'm going to take a brush and I'm going to pick a darker color than the hot spot. And I'm at 10% opacity. And I'm just going to quickly just kind of hit that. And I'll have to go back because I used the healing brush. And then I'm going to sample on the inside and kind of go on the out and kind of blend that. And then blend if, get that sucker over there. And like that. And we got to shut that off because that is going down her head. Oh no, that's okay. All right. So you can see what that did is it's smoothed the transition. I'm going to take the opacity down. It smoothed that transition of the hotspot, you see? See that? It just kind of cooled it off. Oh, and then one other thing I wanted to do is she's got a very bright hot spot right on the tip of her nose. So I'm just going to take a healing brush, go to normal. I'm going to sample above the hot spot, and I'm just going to go zip, just like that. And that's funky, see, because you could see I'm on the tone layer, and you can see the texture of her nose is in there. But if I back up off on the opacity, there, that just kind of knocks the hot heat down, you know, and you can even go more. A lot of times when I do this, what I'll do is I'll finish up and then I'll toggle it and see if I went too strong and then back up on stuff. But that looks pretty good. So now the next step I'm going to do is, for me on this image, she has this white background and it's not perfectly white. So I want to make it perfectly white. So I'm going to show a really cool way to get a really fast mask. So I made a hue saturation level, and I go up here to mask and click mask, and then I go to color range, and it brings up this cool thing that you can do where you sample a color. So the first eyedropper, there's a nothing and then a plus and a minus. So you go to the nothing one, you pick the area that you want to start to affect. And I want to affect that white. I want to pick white. So now I pick plus and I just keep adding to it. And I can just kind of slide around here, slide around down here, and just pick up all that. And as you guys know, masks, the black hides and white shows. So with that in mind, I have picked my background pretty well right here, except the white shirt. And that's not going to change. And it's only got that little teeny piece that I have to fix. So I'm good with this. It made a pretty good mask in 2 seconds. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a brush.
Rod, Elizabeth is asking, wouldn't you want to sharpen the edge where the hair was removed?
What I want? Oh, in the back of her neck?
Yes.
Yeah. No, because that area is out of focus anyway. Right? Does that make sense?
Totally.
Okay, hold on. Now I'm just filling up what I don't want to affect. And a Wacom tablet is a thing of beauty.
Lifesaver.
So there. So now I have just made a really fast mask that's really accurate. Look at that. And then then what I want to do is I might want to take the saturation down just to take any color out. And then I don't like to use the lightness slider. I don't like that. I don't like it. And I don't know why, but I don't. So I don't use it. So if I want to lighten, oops. So now I want to make something white. So I pick a curves layer and I push the option key and I put my cursor there and slide that mask up there and say yes. And then I go Apple I, which will invert it. Oops, I'm sorry. Never mind. No Apple invert. And that now I have a mask on the background, and now I want to pick my white eyedropper and go to the darkest part of the gray of the white that I want to affect, which looks like it's down here. Boop, there you go. Now it's white. So now it's white. And you have a white background, perfectly white background, and she's not affected. And now the next step I would do is, now that I've fixed the background and I've retouched her skin and everything, I'm going to go and fix her, use a levels adjustment to, and now here's the people will, oh, don't use levels and don't use curves and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, curves definitely has it's a lot more robust, but I like levels too. And when you don't need it to be robust and you know exactly what you're going to do with it, it's a tool. So I don't get too caught up on what not to use. So the next step I'm going to do, like I said, is I'm going to fix the contrast and color. So I go again, option, and slide that sucker up there. And now I want to inverse. White displays, oops. See that? I need to fix that. Actually, you know what? I want to show you guys a tip. Another good way to fix that is going to the dodge and burn. This is really cool. Now, if you take the dodge and burn, I have it preset already. I go to burn and I have the exposure at 100. Now watch. Now I'm going to invert, right? Now I have my brush is the burn brush and it's really strong, right? So it's going to burn stuff. Now I can hit the edges and it's not going to affect anything except what it needs to affect. Watch. See how I'm going over the edge? It's not affecting anything. Now, see, it's gone. It's all fixed. So that's, oops, not down there. There. So that's a good way to clean your mask up without screwing up any of the edges, okay? So now I'm going to, actually, I'm going to Apple J, which copies whatever you have below it, right? So the copy I'm going to set to luminosity. And the first one, I'm just going to keep it normal. And I'm going to make little changes. And the reason I split it in between the two is because when I use luminosity, if I use color and I try to push it, see, it changes the color really funky, you know? But it does not do that in luminosity. So I can, if I need to warm, get something darker, I can do that much easier without affecting the color. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to, and I'll show you, I'm going to go to apply image again. I have to change, it was on my other settings. Okay. Now this apply image is basically letting me see what this mask is going to look like, right? So I want to affect her skin, right? So I'm going to look at the different channels and see which one I want, keeping in mind that dark hides and light shows in your mask. I'm thinking about that looking at this mask, and I'm going to go, I think I want to use red because it affects her skin tone the most. Okay. And now and another thing I want to do is, it didn't do it right, so I'm just going to go with the flow here really quickly. And I'm just going to get rid of her shirt. I'm just going to down and dirty, real sloppy do it because it doesn't matter, and you'll see why. I think I'm just going to do this too. And again, I went to my burn tool, and I don't want to affect her jacket, so I'm just going to cover that right up. See how quick that was? Same with her hair. I don't want to affect that too much. Okay, now this is a layer of just her skin and the background, which I can go into and get rid of the background, which, you know what, I am going to do that really quickly. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get a mask of just her face, really, because that's where her skin, the most skin is. And usually something is not working on my Photoshop, so I'm not going to sweat it. I'm just going to do this really quickly, because usually when I drop a mask in it, I can apply image and it, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so that's pretty good. So now I'm going to option slide, and so it uses on both the luminosity layer and the regular layer. And now it's only affecting the areas that are in white. And I'm going to group those, and that right there is pretty good. That's all I really want to do, just to add a little crispness to it, you know? Now, the next step I would do, so let me go back and just take a look. Before and after. I do this all the time as I'm doing this, just to see how I'm doing. Okay, so that's pretty good. So the next step I'm going to do is I'm going to sharpen it, because I like to sharpen my images. Whoops. So then if you go over here to this little tab and click it, whoops, and you hold down the Option key, you can go to Merge, Visible, keep holding it down, and there. Now it made a stamp visible of that. This is everything flattened to the time that you did this. So now I want to sharpen. So I made the layer. Now I'm going to go over here. I'm going to go to Sharpen, Unsharp Mask, go to her eye. Now I go all the way. I go 500. I do my radius at 1.0 and 0 threshold. It's really strong, and you'll see what happens. So then I push OK. And the first thing that I want to do before I do anything is, let me show you why. This is a pretty cool tip. We're going to zoom in really close. So that's a sharpened layer right there, okay? Before I sharpened it, I pushed OK. Now I go to Edit, and I go Fade Unsharp Mask. And I want to change the blending mode from normal to luminosity. Now watch what happens to all those colorful pixels. Boom, see? From that to that. So when you're sharpening, you're changing the mode of that copy of that stamp layer to luminosity, which will not affect the color, because if you don't change the mode, then it affects the color. So now that I did that, then I go Apple J. Now I have 2 layers. My top layer, I changed the blending mode to darken. My bottom layer, I change the blending mode to lighten, and I change the fill or opacity to 50%. And I group the layers, and now I have a really well sharpened image. I'm not done yet though, because it's too strong. So what I'll do is I'll go in here and I'll pick a mask. Actually, I want to invert it. So I inverted that, and now get a paintbrush. It's at 100% flow. I want to have white as my color to paint on, and I'm just going to paint in her eyes. That's it. And then I'm going to, I'll show you what it looks like as I do it. I'm going to apply image. It's not doing what I want it to do. Okay, that's all right. We'll do it the other way. Okay, never mind. This is live, folks. It's always something. There's always something. Okay, so it's being quirky. So what I want to do is I want to go to apply image, and keeping in mind black darkens, or the black I will see less sharpening, and white I will see more sharpening. So I'm just looking at that and kind of deciding what I want to do. And I think I'm going to use the RGB channel. And then, because something's not working right, I need to go here, because I don't want anything sharpened but her features, right? So because something's not working right now, I just need to paint in. I'm just going to do a really quick because all I need to do, I don't even want her forehead. I'm going to stop at her eyebrows. And because it's a sharpening layer, it doesn't need to be precise around her, her face. And then that is sharpened. And you can see it does a pretty good job of sharpening it in a pretty natural way. I'm going to back off on the opacity because it's doing that weird thing to the, there we go, to about 70. There we go. And that's pretty good. Now the last, so that's it. So that I am done with the image, except I have one more step. So that's before and after. Now I would save my image normally as a PSD file. And that way I have this image, the retouched image saved as a PSD file. So if the client goes, hey, can you put my mole back? I can open that up and just go through the layers and fix what I need to fix. So my next step would be I save it, and then I save it, and now it's saved. Now, once it's saved, now I flatten the image. And the next step is I'm going to show you how I contour. And I learned this a long time ago, and I forgot where I learned it. You learn everything online and stuff. So I flatten the image, and I'm going to go up to image, and I'm going to click mode, and I'm going to go to lab color, and I'm going to select lab color. And then I'm going to go to Apple J, which is duplicating the layer. Okay. Then I'm going to go to channels, and I'm going to click lightness, which will make it black and white. Okay. Now I'm going to push keyboard shortcut O, which brings me up to my dodge and burn. Now, if you remember before, I was on my shadow at 100% opacity. That's too strong. So I have this set where that's why I was toggling between inverted and not when I was painting in that mask, because I have my burn always set at 100% exposure, and I have my dodge set at like 2%. So now the dodge is going to affect any light areas. So what I want to do is, and now I'm in black and white, as you can see, I'm in the lightness layer, and I'm just going to kind of brush. I'm going to get in her eyes a little bit, maybe over her eyelids. I did down the bridge of her nose, her lip. I'm going to go underneath her chin. I'm going to do the balls of her cheeks. I'm just going to really, real quickly hit that real fast. Okay. Now I'm going to invert it because now I want to do the shadow side of her face. And because I'm set in highlight, what's highlight now? Highlight is the shadow side of her face. It's the white part of the mask. So now I'm just going to, you'll see what this does. It's a pretty cool effect. I'm just going to go around the dark parts that I want to accentuate. Under her chin, she's got little dimples. Get the underside of the cheek and around the face, down the neck, maybe just around the chin. And that's about it. And then I want to invert it again, so it's back to normal. And now I'm going to click the top button, lab. And now I go back to the color, click layer, and now I can see what it did. And look what it did. It sharpens up her features. You see that? Now, if I go, that's a little strong. I might go down to 80%. There you go. And that's it. Tightens it up really nicely. And now I flatten it. And you go to edit and convert to profile, because you got to remember to convert it out of lab color and go back to Adobe RGB. And now you're set and you have an image. So that's it. I just retouched an image for you. So I'm going to close this, and now I'm going to show you a couple more things that I've come across. Oops, sorry. How are we doing on time? I'm totally lost. I guess we're okay. So now, you saw the first image, you saw me start to finish. Now my next thing I'm going to do, I have a couple different things I'm going to show you. One is reflections in glasses. How do you get rid of reflections in glasses? Well, you shoot it right. That's the first thing you do. And if you don't shoot it right, then you got to deal with it. Like I have to deal with it right here. I have a predominantly natural light studio, and so that's why she has the glare, and we couldn't get it tipped, her glasses tipped down enough. Normally I tell people to go to the optometrist and have their glasses popped out. So this is the image frequency separated already that I've done edits on. I'm going to go to the tone side, not the texture, not the top, but the bottom one. I'm going to add a layer. I'm going to take a brush, and this is how you get rid of reflections, everybody. You go really close. It's so glamorous. Wait till you see this. You take that paintbrush, you get the opacity down low, small brush, get it in real tight, and you just start sampling and painting. Oh, I'm too hard. I want to keep this hardness all the way down. And that's it. And you just start painting. And this is how you get rid of. You can see, I'll show you how quickly you can get stuff done. You don't think you're doing anything, but you're doing a lot. And I'm just sampling next to, as you can see, I'm like, there's that dark crease in her eye. I want sampling around that dark. I want to get there. In here, it's real dark. Your bracket keys will make your brush size smaller and larger, in case you didn't know that. I'm going to go in here, get the dark. And because I'm working in the tone layer, I can take the dark part of her eye and paint this. And it's still going to have the texture of her eyeball underneath there. And this, my friends, is how you get rid of, I'm making that crease. And you can see the eyelashes too are still there as I'm painting. You can see they're still there because I'm doing this in frequency separation mode, which is allowing me to get the tone without the texture. And you can see what I just did in a minute has great effect. And you just keep doing that and doing it and doing it, and you just keep doing it. And that's how you get rid of it. And that's why you want to shoot it right, because it's not fun. And that's basically what you do. I'm not going to do the whole thing, but I will show you. That's what I did when I was done. That's the before and after. And that's it. So the next thing I'm going to show you, people are always like, how did you get rid of reflections on the glasses? It's like, yeah, you got to just get in there and paint, just start painting. The next thing is a common problem is ruddiness in people's skin, that red tone in generally in men's skin. So again, I have this frequency separated, right? I'm going on the tone side because I want to affect the tone where that's where the redness is. It's not the texture of his skin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on the low frequency side, and I'm going to, whoops, sorry. I'm going to get a hue saturation level. Now in the hue saturation level, I am going to, what do I want to do here? I want to just affect the red. So I'm going to go and pick the red channel right here. Now that I'm in the red channel, if I pump my saturation all the way up, and I mean all the way up, it'll show you what's red. That's not red, that's red, that's real red. It breaks it down into tonality. So then there's this little slider down here, okay? Now you can see I pumped the saturation all the way up to 100. I'm in the red channel, and what do I want to do? I want to try to take the red out of his skin. So now if I slide this back and forth, you can see whatever shows up red is going to is going to make an effect. So you can see as I'm sliding this over to the right, more of his skin is being chosen. And it's deciding, the computer is deciding where the red is, because it knows it's in his eyes. You didn't, look how much they're red it is in his eyes. So, whoops, you pick until it's quite a bit. So I'm going to go with that. So now I've chosen my parameters for what I want to affect change. So now that I have that done, I don't need my saturation at 100 anymore, because I know where I'm at. Then I'm still in the red channel, which it changed to magenta because of whatever. Then you take this hue. Aren't I technical? Because of whatever. You take this hue slider and you slide it over, and you can see, really crazy, you can see how much it affects, but you can get it down and get rid of a lot of that red in his skin right there. You see that? Now, what is it doing that we don't like? It's getting in his lips, because we don't want his lips to not be red, because that's natural. So we want to hide the mask. So I have a black paintbrush, and we're just going to go like that. You can see that I'm bringing, oh, I'm sorry, I'm at 10%. There we go. There we go. And you can see that I bring the red back. There. And that, now it's affecting his shirt too. So what I'd want to do is I could just very simply and very quickly, whoops, just go with a black paintbrush and just go, whoops, sorry guys, that was not good. I don't want to, I want his chest to be part of the red. There we go, because I don't want his shirt to change. There, that's it. That's all we needed to do. There. And that takes a lot of the red out. It might even be too much. There you go. And that's how you take red out. It works really good. It doesn't work so well with the other colors, but it does work really well with the red. So that's it. Do we have, I guess I could open it up to questions now, right?
Yeah, let's get some
That's it. I'm done.
questions in. Perfect. I'm glad you went into the, I knew you were going to do something with taking the red out of his skin, but my process is completely differently. So I learned a new process. So worked out good for me. I can get.
Yeah, like we said before this started, Derek, there's a million ways to do one thing,
Definitely.
and there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's whatever works for you, whatever works for you. Like I said before, some people like to go, ooh, you use layers. That's so like, ew, that's no good. But yeah, if I don't need to, if I just need to affect what I know I need to affect, it's no big deal. I don't care.
Definitely.
If I need curves, I'll use curves,
Yeah. Photoshop's one of those places too where the end always justifies the means. It doesn't matter how you get there. As long as you get the end result, I'm sure there's probably half of the tools and half of the procedures I'm doing that I'm using wrong, or I'm not using the way they're intended, or I'm not using them the most optimal way. But I don't care if I have to crawl to the finish line or run across the finish line, as long as I get there, right? Oh, we had a question. Lucia was asking how you would tackle a double chin. And again, it's the perfect follow-up to having a million ways to do something.
That's really good. No, that's a great question, because what I would do with a double chin, first of all, is I would in the shooting, I would make sure that I make sure the person poses correctly when I'm shooting them. That's number one, because I want to try to get it right in the camera. Like I said, the reflections on the glasses, that's me. That was my bad. I was in the moment. I had to get it done, and I was working with what I had, and I got a very limited amount of time. So like the first way I would get rid of a double chin is posing them correctly. If I miss that opportunity, then what I would do is in the lab where I dodged and burned in the lab layer, when I made it lab and went to black and white, I would burn under their chin and darken it, because I don't really want to go into liquefy and change the shape of their face and do stuff like that, because that's not what I do. So that's not in the profile of what I do. You know, that might be a way to handle it, a double chin, but I wouldn't want to remove a double chin. I just might want to hide it a little bit with, in Photoshop, with burning, with making a shadow darker under there.
Good. And I think that's one of those things too, where there's many different styles and flavors of double chin. Sometimes it's not a, it's just a crease. Sometimes, like, like you were alluding to, you don't have the right position, so you have to do basically like a full reconstructive edit.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of one of those things where I take it as doing the least invasive procedure and only doing, I mean, your style is very similar to mine in that you don't go, you try not to go too far. You pull yourself back, you keep it almost, not as natural as possible while still getting the retouching done.
Try.
So you
Yeah.
do a good job of, you
I
use
try.
exercise very good restraint.
Yeah, it's you have to learn that, and I'm still learning it. The restraint is really big, and that's why I said I go back and toggle off and on, and I have no problem in reducing opacities on stuff that I do, and like I'm not attached to what I do. You know what I mean? I want it to look right. So sometimes it's like I'm working on this image, and I'm like, geez, I'm working on this image so long, and I'm looking at the before and after, and it's not much. I didn't really do much.
Yeah, I know.
Because
It's
I
one of
go
those.
through the process and go, oh, let me back that down, let me back that down, let me back that down. And all of a sudden I spent all this time on an image and I just did a little bit. But it's a little bit that I know I did and I can see it, you know?
Exactly. Well, that's the thing too, is that you really don't want it to be noticeable. You want it. If you look at your image and something jumps out, like even like the sharpening thing, I feel like that's one of the pitfalls that a lot of people fall into is they over sharpen.
Yeah.
And it's super, when you see hard lines and the clarity slider is probably my least liked tool of any of the editing apps because I think people just overdo the clarity and the
Right.
sharpness and they want everything to
Right.
be crisp.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. It's
less,
very easy to overdo stuff for sure in
yeah,
Photoshop.
less is definitely more.
For sure.
But Rod, that was thorough, man. I gotta go back in and I gotta watch. It was easy. It was broken down nicely, but it's still it's a lot
It,
to
it's a
the
lot, but
steps.
yeah, once you practice it, like I said, you know, I have an action for my
Hmm.
frequency separation, so that's why I was fumbling through it because I don't do it. I don't do
Yeah,
it manually. But
exactly.
once you know,
Why?
once
Why
you
do it?
right when I
No.
could push a button,
Yeah.
but it's really not that complicated once you get the steps in the proper order and you see that you did it correctly. Once you see the power of what you can do with that, the frequency
Mhm.
separation, it's pretty big because to be able to get in there and to affect people's tonality without affecting their texture is like huge, you know.
Yeah.
That's a game changer for me because you
Well,
can do so
definitely.
much more subtle work, you know, and
Yeah.
not have to worry about affecting globally like that.
Yeah, the part with the healing brush was huge for me because I've never done the healing brush through frequency separation. And now I see why I take more work to because I have to be more selective with, where I'm choosing from, my anchor point to use the healing
Hmm.
brush, and then sometimes I have to go in and I have to clone stamp. And if the clone stamp isn't a perfect match, I have to fade my clone stamp and turn down the opacity. And it ends up being a lot of work for certain blemishes when I could just do it through there. So thank you for
Yes.
that tip.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the downside is it does make your files much bigger, you
Yeah,
know, because
used
you're adding a lot of different layers, but that's
used that
cool.
anyway.
Storage is
Yeah.
cheap.
Yes. I'm over here and it's like I had to buy shelves just to fit all my external hard drives. That's part of the game, man. It is what it
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So,
True that.
Rod, thank you so much, man. It's always good to have you
Awesome.
on.
Thanks for
Super,
having
super,
me again.
super informative. Hey, anytime, you're always welcome back. We'll have to do
Cool.
another Photoshop thing sometime. We'll go into
Totally.
this is fun. I love doing the retouching stuff. Like I said,
Yeah.
whenever I can get a benefit out of it, and I've been using Photoshop for more years than I can count. It's always good to learn something new, a new
Yeah, that's
process.
the cool thing about Photoshop. It's like you watch a tutorial or something, and it's like I know all that everything I know, but that one thing I
Yeah,
learned a trick, and it's worth the time when you learn that one little trick. It's like, ooh, that's a nice trick. because
That's
there's a
it.
lot of there's a lot of ins and outs to Photoshop for sure.
Yeah, I feel like that's what Photoshop is. It's just a combination of like the things that you do commonly and those little tricks that get you like each tool or each procedure that you have to do in Photoshop has that one little trick that sets it apart from an entire different process. And
Yeah.
now with this, using frequency separation in a new way, because I don't do a lot of the reason why I don't, why I was so slow to learn frequency separation was because I don't retouch skin. My work is very natural, but there is
Hmm.
times when I like to do like, or I have to do blemish removal for an occasional photo, and
Hmm.
doing frequency separation just for blemish removal makes it.
Totally.
That's it, man.
Yeah, it is.
Oh,
It
now I
is.
got my work cut out for me. I got to go
Well,
commit that to memory.
you'll see it. You're going to be like, oh, wow, this is awesome.
Yeah, I
Zip,
was
zip,
seeing it
zip.
there. It's like it's
Yeah,
man, I'm telling you, it's something that I
yeah,
could see myself using when
totally.
I do have to do it. So
Absolutely. Good. Enjoy.
awesome. Thank you, man.
Excellent.
Well, it's always a pleasure to have you. To all of our viewers, thank you all for tuning in to another rendition of the B&H Virtual Event Space. We will catch y'all next time.